The late September sun cast long shadows through the kitchen window as Alan Taylor scrubbed concrete residue from his weathered hands. 25 years of construction work had left them calloused and strong, each scar a testament to projects completed and promises kept. Alan glanced at the clock. Ryan would be at soccer practice until later, leaving him time to review the Thompson project estimates. A phone buzzed insistently on the granite countertop, its screen lighting up with repeated notifications. Ryan's iPhone had been forgotten in his typical teenage rush to practice. Alan might have ignored it, but the preview snippets made his chest tighten. "Dad doesn't even. Jason said we could. Mom thinks the fragments were enough." His steady hands trembled as he picked up the phone. The messages between Ryan and his best friend Kevin scrolled endlessly upward, each one a fresh blow. "No, Dad's clueless about Mom's new companion," Ryan texted that morning. "Jason drives that new BMW M4, you know, the one we saw at the dealership. He lets me drive it after school. Way cooler than Dad's old pickup." Kevin's reply popped up. "Damn bro, you're Mom's boss. That's wild. Your dad really doesn't know." "Nah, he's too busy with his precious construction sites. Mom says he wouldn't notice if she danced without clothes in front of him with sparklers." Another message read, "Jason brings me lunch every Wednesday and Friday. Got us courtside Lakers tickets for next weekend. Dad thinks I'm at SAT prep with Kevin." Alan's jaw clenched, his muscles twitching as he scrolled through weeks of messages. The texts unfolded like casual gossip dismantling his life. "Jason's teaching me to golf next weekend." Read one message. "It's important for business networking." "Dad just goes on about honest work and calluses telling your story." Such boomer advice. The final message made Alan sink heavily into a kitchen chair he had built himself. "TBA, I prefer Jason more as a dad than my current one," read the text. It was as if dismantling his life were nothing more than teenage banter. The sound of the garage door opening startled Alan. May was not due home for hours. He quickly replaced the phone exactly as he'd found it. The kitchen door opened, and his wife breezed in, designer handbags swinging from her arm. "Oh, Alan, you're home early," May said, her smile faltering slightly. She wore a fitted blazer and skirt that probably cost more than a week's worth of his labor. "I thought you had that big project in Beverly Hills today." "Finished ahead of schedule," Alan replied steadily, betraying none of the turmoil beneath. The crew really came together. Good men. Reliable. His emphasis on reliable was subtle but present. May's perfectly manicured fingers fiddled with her car keys. "That's nice, honey. I just forgot some paperwork. The dealership's been crazy with end-of-quarter sales." The question hung in the air like smoke. "Must be selling a lot of M4s." "What?" Alan asked, standing slowly as his frame filled the kitchen doorway. "BMWs, Ryan mentioned them. Seems he's quite the expert these days." Color drained from May's face. "Oh well, you know, teenagers and cars." She clutched her handbag closer. "I should get back. Jason, Mr. Martinez needs these contracts." Alan rolled the name around like a bitter pill. "Your new sales manager," he muttered. May's facade cracked. "How did you? Have you been spying on me?" "Spying?" Alan replied with a humorless laugh. Ryan left his phone. "Seems our son is quite proud of his new mentor." He stepped closer, his voice dropping. "Tell me, May, does Jason know you're using the college fund I earned on your little midlife crisis?" His words struck like hammer blows. "It's not like that." May's voice rose sharply. "You're never here, always working, covered in dirt and concrete. Jason understands." "Understands what?" "How to spend another man's money. How to play father with another man's son." Alan said evenly, though his eyes blazed. "While I'm covered in dirt, building our future, you're letting some car salesman ruin it." May's chin lifted defiantly. "Jason's a finance manager now. He has ambition, plans. He's taking Ryan to tour colleges next month, with my money." Alan's interruption cut like steel. Every dollar you're spending on your companion, I earned that installing drywall at midnight, laying tile on weekends, building houses for other families while you complained about my hours. You don't understand modern business, Alan. Ryan needs connections and opportunity. May countered. What Ryan needs, Alan's words fell like hammer blows, is to learn the difference between men who build things and men who sell them. I guess we're all about to learn that lesson. May stepped back, suddenly uncertain. What do you mean? She whispered. Alan simply smiled. A smile that never reached his eyes. You should get back to work. Jason's waiting. And May. Hope that fancy blazer keeps you warm. Winter's coming. His tone held a final, icy thread. May hurried out, her heels clicking rapidly across the garage concrete. Alan waited until her car pulled away before pulling out his phone. His fingers no longer trembled as he dialed. Phil, this is Alan Taylor. Remember that contingency plan we discussed last year? It's time to execute, and Phil, every account. Leave nothing. Phil Terrell's office smelled of leather and aged wood, a stark contrast to the dust and sawdust that usually surrounded Alan. The accountant pulled up digital statements on his jewel monitors as Alan sat across a mahogany desk in his work boots and worn jeans. The money trails are clear, Phil said, turning one screen toward Alan. May's been accessing the joint accounts for business lunches at Mastro's Steakhouse, 2 to 3 times a week, averaging $200 per visit. He clicked through several transactions. The pattern started 3 months ago, right when Jason Martinez joined Luxury Motors as their sales manager. Alan leaned forward, studying the dates. Show me Ryan's expenses. Phil pulled up another statement. The private school lunch account shows doubled spending. 2 lunches charged most days, plus high-end restaurants delivered to the school. He adjusted his glasses. There's more, he continued. Concert tickets, sports events, and golf club memberships, all charged to your joint credit cards. The college fund remains untouched, but she's been asking about early withdrawal options. Lock it down, Alan ordered. Transfer everything to the new accounts we set up. I want it done before the banks close today. Phil nodded, and his fingers flew over the keyboard. The business accounts are secure, Phil said. She never had access to those. Smart move keeping Taylor Construction separate. He paused, looking at Alan over his glasses. But you should know she tried accessing them last week, called pretending to be your secretary, asking about your contracts and billing. Alan's jaw tightened. The Thompson project. She asked specifically about it. The payment schedule for a $3 million contract. Alan stood, pacing the office. She's not just involved with him. There's planning going on, Phil said. And there's more. I did some digging on Jason Martinez. He has a pattern. 3 dealerships in 5 years, each time leaving after getting involved with married clients. 2 harassment complaints, both quietly settled. His BMW. It's leased under the dealership's name. He's all show and no substance. The show's about to end, Alan said, pulling out his phone and scrolling through his contacts. Do you know Jane Hammond, the divorce attorney? Sharp as they come. She took a cheating husband for everything last year. Even got his boat, Phil offered with a grim smile. Want her number? Phil asked. I do. Did a custom garage for her last spring, Phil added. Alan paused at the office door. Phil, I need one more thing. Pull every receipt, every bank statement from the last 20 years, every hour I worked, every dollar I earned. I want a paper trail showing exactly how we built this life. Already on it, Phil replied, holding up a thumb drive. Digital copies here. Your wife's spending spree these past months stands in stark contrast to your deposit records. 16-hour days, weekend jobs, all documented. No judge will miss the message, Alan murmured. He pocketed the drive. Send everything to Jane. And Phil, he added, thank you for having my back all these years. You're one of the good ones. You built your business honestly and paid your taxes clean. I can't say the same for this Jason character. Phil turned back to his computer. His credit reports are interesting. Man's leverage is his eyes. That the dealership doesn't know about his gambling debts. Phil muttered. Alan walked to his truck. You know, Jane Hammond's office, he said into his phone. Her secretary recognized my name immediately. Mr. Taylor, Ms. Hammond can see you at 4. At the law office on the top floor of a renovated building. Jane Hammond greeted him with a firm handshake. Her designer suit made a powerful statement, practical and precise. Phil sent over the files, Jane said as she led him to a conference room overlooking the city. I've reviewed everything. Have to say, Mr. Taylor, you've given me a lot to work with. Call me Alan. He settled into a chair, his work boots scuffing the plush carpet. What's my next move? Jane spread documents across the table. You've already made the smart move, securing assets, documenting the affair, and protecting the business. She tapped a legal pad. But timing is crucial. Your wife's spending suggests they're getting bolder with inquiries about the business accounts. She continued, they might be planning something bigger. The college fund is currently safe, and your documentation proves you earned it through honest construction work. Her recent behavior shows financial irresponsibility. Jane pulled out a highlighted document. But we need to move fast, she said. Once she realizes the accounts are locked, she'll lawyer up. Ellen's voice was firm. I want it done right. I built everything with these hands. I won't let them tear it down. Jane outlined the strategy, each point as precise as an architectural plan. File first, claim abandonment and infidelity. Your evidence is solid. The texts from your son will hit hard in court. Judges do not look kindly on parental alienation. Alan absorbed the details, asking pointed questions about custody, asset division, and timeline. As the meeting concluded, Jane asked one final question. The house you mentioned, you built it yourself. Every nail, every board. Spent 5 years of weekends on it while working full-time, Alan confirmed. Perfect, Jane noted. That's another point in our favor. Sweat equity has value in court. She closed her folder. Go home. Alan, act normal. Let us get everything in place. When we move, it will be decisive. Alan's tone was icy as he added, oh, and May, I hope that fancy blazer keeps you warm. Winter's coming. With that, he turned away, effectively dismissing her. May hurried out, her heels clicking rapidly across the garage concrete. Alan waited until her car pulled away before pulling out his phone. His fingers no longer trembled as he dialed. Phil, this is Alan Taylor. The contingency plan we discussed last year. It's time to execute. And Phil, every account. Leave nothing, he repeated firmly. Phil Terrell's office smelled of leather and aged wood, a stark contrast to the dust and sawdust Alan was used to. The accountant pulled up digital statements on his jewel monitors, while Alan sat across a mahogany desk in his worn jeans and work boots. The money trails are clear, Phil said, turning one screen toward Alan. May's been accessing the joint accounts for business lunches at Mastro's Steakhouse. 2 to 3 times a week, averaging $200 per visit. He clicked through several transactions. The pattern had started 3 months ago, right when Jason Martinez joined Luxury Motors as their sales manager. Alan leaned forward, studying the dates. Show me Ryan's expenses, he demanded. Phil pulled up another statement. The private school lunch account shows doubled spending. 2 lunches charged most days, plus high-end restaurants delivered to the school. He adjusted his glasses and continued. There's more. Concert tickets, sports events, and golf club memberships charged to your joint credit cards. He added, the college fund remains untouched, but she's been asking about early withdrawal options. Ellen's tone hardened. Lock it down. Transfer everything to the new accounts we set up. I want it done before the banks close today. Phil nodded, and his fingers flew over his keyboard. The business accounts are secure, he confirmed. She never had access to those. Smart move keeping Taylor Construction separate. Then he paused, looking at Alan over his glasses. But you should know, Phil added. She tried accessing them last week. She called, pretending to be your secretary, wanting information about your contracts and billing. Ellen's jaw tightened. The Thompson project. She asked specifically about it. The payment schedule for a $3 million contract. Alan stood, pacing the office. She's not just involved with him. They're planning something together, he murmured. Phil swiveled in his chair. There's more. I did some digging on Jason Martinez. He has a pattern. 3 dealerships in 5 years, each time leaving after getting involved with married clients. 2 harassment complaints, both quietly settled. His BMW. Alan interjected. It's leased under the dealership's name. He's all show and no substance. The show is about to end. Alan pulled out his phone and scrolled through his contacts. Do you know Jane Hammond? Phil asked. The divorce attorney is as sharp as they come. She took a cheating husband for everything last year, even his boat. Want her number? Phil offered. I do, Alan replied. I need every receipt and bank statement from the last 20 years. Every hour I worked, every dollar I earned. I want a paper trail showing exactly how we built this life. Already on it, Phil said, holding up a thumb drive. Digital copies here. Your wife's spending spree these past months stands in stark contrast to your deposit records. 16-hour days, weekend jobs, all documented. No judge will miss the message. Ellen pocketed the drive. Send everything to Jane, he ordered. He added, and Phil, thank you for having my back all these years. You built your business honestly and paid your taxes properly. I can't say the same for this scoundrel Jason. Phil turned back to his computer. His credit reports are interesting, he noted. Man's leverage is in his debts. Bet the dealership doesn't know about his gambling losses. Alan walked to his truck. You know Jane Hammond's office, he said into his phone. Her secretary recognized my name immediately. Mr. Taylor, Ms. Hammond can see you at 4. At the law office on the top floor of a renovated building, Jane Hammond greeted Ellen with a firm handshake. Her designer suit made a strong statement, practical and precise. Phil sent over the files, she said as she led him to a conference room overlooking the city. I've reviewed everything. Have to say, Mr. Taylor, you've given me a lot to work with. Call me Alan. Alan settled into a chair, his work boots scuffing the plush carpet. What's my next move? He asked. Jane spread documents across the table. You made the smart move, securing assets, documenting the affair, and protecting the business. But timing is crucial. Your wife's spending suggests they're getting bolder with inquiries about the business accounts. She continued, they might be planning something bigger. The college fund is currently safe, and your documentation proved you earned it through honest work. Her recent behavior shows financial irresponsibility. Jane pulled out a highlighted document, but we need to move fast. Once she realizes the accounts are locked, she'll lawyer up. Ellen's voice was firm. I want it done right. I built everything with my own hands. I won't let them tear it down. Jane outlined the strategy, each point as precise as an architectural plan. File first, claim abandonment and infidelity. Your evidence is solid. The text from your son will hit hard in court. Judges do not look kindly on parental alienation. Alan absorbed the details, asking pointed questions about custody, asset division, and timeline. As the meeting concluded, Jane asked one final question. The house you built yourself, every nail, every board. Spent 5 years of weekends on it while working full-time. Alan confirmed. Perfect, Jane said. That's another point in our favor. Sweat equity has value in court. She closed her folder. Go home, Alan. Act normal. Let us get everything in place. When we move, it will be decisive. Alan's tone was icy as he added, Oh, and May, I hope that fancy blazer keeps you warm. Winter's coming." Then he turned away, dismissing her. May hurried out, her heels clicking rapidly across the garage concrete. Alan waited until her car pulled away before pulling out his phone. His fingers no longer trembled as he dialed. After the call with Phil, Alan accessed his home office computer one last time. The secret camera feed from the garage showed May's recent pattern of arriving home late, past 11, checking the mileage on her car's odometer, and adjusting her clothes in the side mirror. Small deceptions, documented and dated. His phone buzzed with a text from Ryan. "Dad, can I get $50 for dinner with the team after practice?" Ellen typed back, "Check your lunch account balance." 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, reappearing. Finally, the message read, "Insufficient funds, must be a mistake." "No mistake," Alan replied. "Ask Jason for lunch money tomorrow. I'm sure he won't mind extending his generosity." Radio silence followed. Ellen forwarded the conversation to Jane, adding it to the documentation pile. His next call was to Ryan's private school, Westbrook Academy. "Mr. Kendricks, this is Alan Taylor regarding Ryan's tuition." The school administrator pulled up the records. "Ah yes, Mr. Taylor. The next quarter's payment is due next week. Will you be using the same account?" "No. In fact, I'm calling to notify you that I am withdrawing financial responsibility for Ryan's education, effective immediately." Alan's tone remained professional. "I've emailed documentation showing the tuition agreement was between myself and Westbrook. My wife was never a signatory." Silence filled the line. "I see. This is unusual, Mr. Taylor. Ryan's a senior, nearly finished. His mother has been handling his college tours recently. I'm sure she has plans for his education going forward." Alan paused. "You should also know that the recent Lakers tickets and golf club membership charged to the school's parent association account were not authorized by me. Those charges came through Mrs. Taylor's credentials." Mr. Kendricks typed audibly. "The membership was endorsed by a Mr. Martinez, claiming business connection benefits for senior students. Interesting. Perhaps you should review those transactions with your fraud department." Alan's voice hardened. "I built 3 additions to Westbrook Academy. Mr. Kendricks never once mixed business with personal gain. Think about that." The administrator cleared his throat. "I will investigate immediately. And Mr. Taylor, I'm sorry about this situation. Ryan's a good kid, despite his recent changes in attitude." The administrator added, "Recent changes? That's diplomatic of you. Let's just say his new designer clothes and lunch deliveries haven't gone unnoticed by the faculty. They've caused some social disruption." After finishing the call, Alan made one final round through the house and the kitchen. He left the divorce papers in plain sight, accompanied by printed screenshots of Ryan's texts and May's financial transactions. His simple gold wedding ring sat atop the stack, never quite matching May's upgraded diamonds. The security camera feed on his phone showed Ryan's soccer practice ending. May's car remained at the dealership, her regular Wednesday rendezvous right on schedule. Alan shouldered his father's old toolbox and walked through the garage, pausing at his workbench. Pinned to the corkboard was a faded photograph. 10-year-old Ryan holding his first hammer, grinning proudly beside a half-built treehouse. Alan unpinned it carefully and tucked it into his wallet. The empty space on the corkboard stood out like a pale accusation. His phone buzzed again. Phil confirming the final transfers were complete. Everything Alan had built over 25 years, every contract and payment, was now secured in new accounts. May's next shopping spree would hit a wall of insufficient funds. The last light faded as Alan climbed into his truck. Through the windshield, he studied the house he had built. Every window, every angle crafted by his own hands. In the gathering dark, it looked like any other wealthy home in the neighborhood. But Alan knew its bones, its foundation, and the strength hidden beneath its polished surface. "Your move," he murmured as he started the engine. The truck pulled away quietly, leaving behind a house full of carefully laid traps and shattered illusions. In the garage, the new toolbox waited like a silent sentinel, ready to teach one final lesson about the difference between building a life and borrowing one. The night swallowed his taillights as Alan drove north toward a small town where he had recently won a contract to build a community center. Time to start over. Time to build something new, he thought. Behind him, his phone tracked multiple incoming calls. May, Ryan, the credit card company. Each one went unanswered, falling into the growing darkness like stones in a deep well. Some silences, after all, spoke louder than words. May's morning began with her usual confidence as she pulled into the Starbucks drive-thru. Designer sunglasses perched on her perfectly highlighted hair. The barista's voice crackled through the speaker while taking her complex order. A sugar-free vanilla latte with almond milk. Extra hot, light foam. That'll be $7.45, Mrs. Taylor, the barista said. May held out her platinum card with manicured fingers, as she had hundreds of times before. The barista swiped once, twice, then frowned. I'm sorry, Mayim. It's showing declined. That's impossible, May replied, her voice carrying a note of wealthy irritation. Try again. 3 attempts later, with the line of cars behind her growing restless, May fumbled through her goosey wallet for another card. Each swipe brought the same result. Declined. Perhaps there's an issue with your system, she suggested, her composure cracking slightly. The teenage barista shrugged. Systems are fine, Mrs. Taylor. The other customers' cards are working. Burning with humiliation, May pulled out of the drive-thru. Her phone displayed a banking app error. Account access restricted. Please contact your financial institution. Her fingers trembled as she dialed Alan's number, straight to voicemail. Again and again. Mrs. Taylor. Her assistant's voice cut through the panic. Ryan's school is online now. They say it's urgent. May switched calls, her stomach churning as Ryan's panicked voice filled the car's Bluetooth speaker. Mom, something's wrong. My lunch account says insufficient funds. The bursar wants to talk about tuition. Calm down, honey, she urged. I'm sure it's just a technical glitch. Before she could protest further, another voice interjected. Mrs. Taylor, we're calling about Ryan's senior trip payment. The final installment has been reversed by the bank. Without an immediate alternative payment, I'm afraid his spot will be forfeited. May's hands gripped the steering wheel, her knuckles white. Listen, there's been a mistake. My husband. Mom, they're saying I can't attend classes without the tuition payment. What's happening? Ryan's voice cracked with tension. May swung her BMW into a U-turn, tires squealing. I'm coming to the school. Don't worry, baby. I'll fix this. The 15-minute drive home took only 8 minutes. Her heels clicked rapidly across the garage floor as she rushed inside, calling out, Alan. Silence answered. The master bedroom closet stopped her cold. Alan's side was half empty. His work boots and construction clothes were gone. Dresser drawers hung open, vacant. The safe in their closet was open and empty, except for a stack of papers and printed phone screenshots. May's hand shook as she lifted the first page. Divorce papers had already been filed, and beneath them were printed copies of Ryan's text messages to Kevin, each highlighted in stark yellow. The text about Jason, about the BMW drives, about preferring him as a father, it all screamed betrayal. No, no, no. May scattered the papers, diving for her phone. Jason, pick up, pick up. His voicemail greeted her. May's knees gave out as she sank onto the bed she had shared with Alan for 20 years. The same bed from which she had slipped out for late-night meetings with Jason. Her phone buzzed, this time from the bank manager. Mrs. Taylor, I'm calling about unusual activity on your accounts. What accounts? She asked, her voice distant. What's left? That's just it, Mrs. Taylor. The joint accounts have been closed. The investment portfolio liquidated. The credit cards canceled. Mr. Taylor's signature appears on all transactions. May's gaze fell on the garage security camera's blinking light, the very camera Alan had installed last month, citing neighborhood break-ins. This was the same camera that had recorded her late-night returns, her careful odometer checks, and her clothing adjustments in the car mirror. In the garage, one final shock awaited. The space where Alan's father's toolbox had sat for 17 years now held a brand-new replica, pristine and untouched, a silent mockery of everything broken and replaced. Ryan's calls continued to light up her phone. The school bursar, the trip coordinator, the bank manager, each demanding answers she couldn't provide. May stared at her reflection in the bedroom mirror, suddenly seeing her designer clothes and perfect makeup as nothing more than a cheap costume. In the garage, the security camera blinked steadily, recording her unraveling piece by piece. The sound of a car in the driveway sent her rushing to the window. Instead of Alan's truck, a sleek BMW M4 pulled up. Jason stepped out, his handsome face creased with worry. "May, what's going on?" he asked. Inside, May's tears smeared her expensive mascara. In the garage, the new toolbox gleamed under fluorescent lights, while the camera recorded everything, as Alan had planned. At Westbrook Academy's administrative office, tension filled the air as May and Jason sat before Headmaster Richards. The mahogany desk between them felt like a judge's bench. "Mrs. Taylor," Richards said, adjusting his wire-rimmed glasses, "Westbrook has always valued its relationship with your family. Mr. Taylor's construction company has been instrumental in our campus development." He slid a document forward. "The tuition agreement bears only your husband's signature. Legally, we cannot continue Ryan's enrollment without payment. Surely we can work something out." Jason leaned forward with a smile that had closed countless luxury car deals. "I understand Alan's having some emotional difficulties, but Ryan's education shouldn't suffer." Richard's expression hardened. "Mr. Martins, while we appreciate your concern, you have no legal standing in this matter," Richard said, turning to May. "Furthermore, the Parent Association has flagged several unauthorized charges: Lakers tickets, golf club memberships. These are serious irregularities." "Those were networking opportunities," May protested, her voice trembling with frustration. "I've been fighting for Ryan's future." "Speaking of Ryan's future," Richards continued, "his college acceptance to Stanford is contingent on completing senior year at Westbrook, without immediate payment." Jason cleared his throat, trying to interject, but Richards cut him off. "The school's policy is clear. Only legal guardians may handle tuition matters. Ryan can finish this week, and then we'll prepare his transfer papers." Outside, the November wind whipped May's designer coat as they hurried to Jason's BMW. "This is insane," she fumed. "Alan can't just destroy everything we built." Jason's laugh held an edge. "From what I've seen, Alan did the building. You just spent the proceeds." He loosened his Italian silk tie. "Listen, about the tuition." "May," she interjected hopefully, "you said you'd help. Your bonus from the Q4 sale, right?" Jason shifted uncomfortably. "Yeah, about that. The dealerships are investigating some irregularities in my accounts, and my ex-wife's lawyer is reviewing my finances for additional support payments." He ran a hand through his perfectly styled hair. "The BMW's a dealer demo. I can't exactly." "Can't what?" May's voice rose. "Can't help the woman who risked everything for you, the son you promised to mentor." "Be reasonable, May. I never made promises," Jason snapped. "You said you loved me, that Ryan deserved better than a blue-collar father who couldn't appreciate his potential." Jason's handsome features twisted. "I said what closing the deal required. It's called sales, honey. You've been selling Alan short for years." May's hand cracked across his cheek, leaving a red mark. "You scoundrel." Reality check. Jason touched his cheek, his eyes growing cold. "You wanted the fantasy luxury cars, expensive dinners, VIP treatment. Alan wanted to build something real. Guess who made the better investment? May's phone buzzed with another text from Ryan. Mom, Kevin's parents know everything. His dad canceled the construction contract with Alan's company. Everyone's talking. The social fallout hit like an avalanche. Within hours, Ryan's circle of wealthy friends evaporated. Parents who'd hired Alan's company suddenly remembered other commitments. The country club May frequented was mysteriously booked whenever she called. At the dealership, whispers trailed her. Her office, a testament to corporate success, now felt like a glass cage. Every eye watched as her carefully curated world crumbled. Mrs. Taylor, her assistant said, hovering in the doorway, the general manager wants to see you. The meeting was brief. Concerns about professional conduct were raised, and questions about unauthorized use of dealer demo vehicles surfaced. We'll need your resignation by day's end, the GM concluded. And Mrs. Taylor, Mr. Martinez has accepted a transfer to our Phoenix location, effective immediately. That evening, May sat alone in her pristine kitchen, surrounded by the life Alan had built, a life she had traded for borrowed luxury and empty promises from a car salesman. Her phone displayed a banking app notification. Account balance, $742.16. She thought back to 2008 when the recession had threatened everything. Alan had taken jobs beneath his skill level, working nights and weekends to keep them afloat. She had complained about his absence and the constant smell of drywall dust, never realizing he was laying the foundation for her designer lifestyle. The doorbell rang. Ryan stood there in his private school uniform, wrinkled, and with red eyes. Mom, he said, his voice cracking. The guys at school, they're saying things about you and Jason. Dad's clients are calling their kids, telling them to stay away from me. What's going to happen to us? May stared at her son, suddenly aware of how she had let him trade his father's hard-earned wisdom for a borrowed BMW and empty promises. The garage security camera blinked steadily, recording this moment as another piece of evidence in Alan's meticulously constructed case. Pack your things, she managed to say. We need to figure something out. Figure what out? Ryan's voice rose. My college acceptance. My friends. Everything's gone. In the distance, a truck engine rumbled. For a moment, May's heart leaped, but it was just a delivery vehicle, not Alan's familiar pickup. In the garage, the new toolbox sat untouched, a silent reminder of the difference between men who build things and men who merely borrow success. Alan had orchestrated this reality like a perfectly constructed trap, leaving them to face the consequences of trading substance for surface, building for borrowing, and true love for a lease and luxury. 3 weeks felt like 3 years. May stood in the empty foyer of their once pristine home, watching as her collection of designer handbags disappeared into a consignment shop van. That's all I can offer, the owner said while writing a check. The market was saturated with luxury goods these days. Ryan trudged down the stairs in plain clothes instead of his Westbrook uniform. His first day at Franklin Public High School loomed tomorrow. The Lakers tickets and BMW drives now seemed like a distant dream. Kevin's dad called, Ryan muttered, slumping against the wall. He said he's pulling out of the Thompson development project. Called Dad, the most principled contractor in the business. Right before he hung up on me. May folded the consignment check, which barely covered 1 month's mortgage. We'll figure something out. Like what, Mom? Ryan's voice cracked with bitterness. Jason's gone. Dad's gone. Stanford rescinded my early acceptance when they learned I couldn't finish at Westbrook. He kicked the baseboard that Alan had installed years ago. Everything's gone because you couldn't keep your hands off your boss. That's not my boss. May snapped, then caught herself. I've hired a private investigator. Your father can't just disappear. He didn't disappear because of us, Ryan interrupted. He pulled out his phone, showing her a contractor's website. Look what Kevin sent me. The screen displayed a community center under construction 2 hours north. In the background, barely visible, was Alan's distinctive red pickup truck. I'm going to find him. Ryan grabbed his jacket. I'm coming. The drive north felt endless. May's remaining credit card, a low-limit emergency card in her maiden name, barely covered the gas. They passed familiar sites where Alan had built homes, each one a testament to his reputation for quality work. At the edge of a small town, the community center rose, a skeleton of steel and concrete reaching toward gray November skies. Workers in hard hats moved purposefully across the site. There, beside a cement mixer, stood Alan. He had lost weight. His shoulders looked harder and his stance more rigid. The wedding ring was gone from his left hand as he gestured to his crew, explaining something about the foundation. "Dad," Ryan called as he stepped out of the car before May could stop him. Alan's head turned slightly, but his hands never stopped working. He spread cement with practiced precision. "Please, Dad. I messed up. I didn't mean those things," Ryan pleaded, his voice breaking. The cement mixer's rhythmic hum filled the silence. Other workers glanced between father and son before returning to their tasks. Alan continued smoothing the wet concrete, each stroke methodical. "I know now," Ryan said, gripping the safety barrier, "how much you did for us. Every extra hour, every sacrifice." Alan's hand stilled for a moment. "You let him play father while I worked overtime for your future," he said. "We can fix this. Fix it. But some things can't be fixed. They have to be rebuilt from the ground up. Please, give us another chance," Ryan pleaded. Alan set down his trowel. "You had 20 years of chances, 20 years of me building something real while you chased something borrowed." He gestured to the rising community center. This is real. Every beam, every nail, every yard of concrete will stand long after that leased BMW is junk." Ryan stepped closer. "Dad, I'll transfer schools, get a job, and learn the business from the ground up." Alan's voice softened slightly. "Funny you mentioned that. I got a call from Stanford's engineering department. They're interested in practical experience as much as test scores. I told them about a kid who wants to learn construction from the foundation up." He paused. "Their response is in your old room under the new toolbox." Hope flickered across Ryan's face, then faded. "But you're not coming back." "No, Dad," Ryan said softly. "Because of us." Alan picked up his trowel again. "Maybe it depends on what you build from here. Choose carefully, son. Borrowed things get repossessed. Built things last." May watched her son's shoulders slump as Alan resumed working. The cement mixer's rhythm drowned out any further response. The community center rose beam by beam, a testament to the difference between building a life and borrowing one. The drive home stretched longer than the journey out. Ryan stared at his soft hands, uncalloused hands that had never known real work. In the passenger seat, May's designer watch caught the setting sun, its face reflecting a future suddenly stripped of artificial shine. Alan's words hung between them. Some things must be rebuilt from the ground up. The next day, as May supervised movers packing up the remnants of her former life with Alan, the for sale signs swayed in the winter wind. The real estate agent had warned her the housing market was down. The mortgage would consume most of their equity. Yet, she had never expected such a paltry sum. "Mrs. Taylor," the moving foreman said, clipboard in hand. "There's an issue with the payment." May closed her eyes. Of course, her finance manager's salary, once a point of pride, now barely covered essentials. The two-bedroom apartment she had found in a less desirable part of town waited, its beige walls and worn carpet a far cry from the home Alan had crafted. In the doorway of his old room, now empty except for Alan's brand-new toolbox still untouched, Ryan appeared. "Mr. Peterson called," he said. "The garage needs an answer about the job." The local repair shop had offered Ryan an entry-level position. Minimum wage, oil changes, tire rotations, the work that would have been beneath him 3 months ago. Now, with his college plans derailed and his savings gone, it looked like salvation. "Take it," May said softly. "We need the income." Ryan nodded and already pulled up the shop's number. His designer clothes had been replaced by practical wear, and his manicured hands were beginning to show the first signs of real work. Later that evening, in their new apartment, May unpacked boxes while Ryan assembled second-hand furniture. The walls were so thin they could hear neighbors arguing about unpaid bills, a conversation that hit too close to home. Jason called Ryan, his voice suddenly tight as he tightened a bolt on a wobbly table from Phoenix. "Do you need money?" May asked. Ryan's laugh held no humor. "I feel bad about everything," he said, then mentioned his ex-wife's lawyer had discovered our situation, facing a bigger divorce settlement. "Would you testify that nothing happened until after his separation?" He muttered, bitterness in his tone. "Like what, Mom? That he'd replaced Dad?" Ryan's voice hardened. "That his borrowed BMW and Lakers tickets meant something. Dad tried to tell me the difference between earning something and borrowing it." A notification lit up May's phone, a bank deposit alert. The finance manager position she had once been proud of now felt like a bitter joke. She remembered Alan's words during the recession, how he took any job available to keep them afloat. At that time, she had complained about his long hours and dirty work clothes. Now she understood the quiet dignity in his choices. "Your father," she began. "Don't," Ryan interrupted abruptly. "Don't talk about Dad. You traded everything he built for a man who leases luxury cars and runs when things get tough." He grabbed his keys to a used Honda Civic, bought with his own savings, not a borrowed BMW. "I've got training at the garage. Mr. Peterson says if I learn quickly, he might move me to actual repairs by spring." After Ryan left, May wandered through their small apartment. The furniture was functional but cheap, nothing like the custom pieces Alan had built. The windows looked out on a parking lot instead of the manicured lawn he had maintained. Even the air felt different, stale and confined, missing the scent of wood and honest work that once filled their old home. Her phone buzzed again with a bill notification. The designer wardrobe she once flaunted at charity events had been sold off piece by piece. Her social circle, built around Alan's success and reputation, had evaporated. Even her job felt precarious, with rumors of dealership downsizing circulating after Jason's hasty departure. In the kitchen, May found Ryan's first garage paycheck stub. The amount seemed pitiful compared to the allowances they once gave him, but his scribbled calculations showed careful budgeting, a lesson Alan had tried to teach him for years. The irony wasn't lost on her. She had pushed Ryan toward Jason's flashy lifestyle, believing Alan's emphasis on hard work was outdated. Now her son was learning his father's values the hard way, one oil change at a time. A text from the real estate agent interrupted her thoughts. "Final papers ready. Buyer is offering 15% below asking. Recommend accepting. The market isn't improving." May typed back her agreement, then opened her banking app. After the mortgage settlement, she would have barely enough for 3 months' rent. Her salary would cover basics, but the lifestyle she had known, the one Alan built while she dreamed of something more exciting, was gone. Through the thin walls, she heard neighbors, a child crying about changing schools, a mother promising things would get better. May's eyes fell on Alan's new toolbox, still sitting untouched in Ryan's room. A silent reminder of the difference between building something real and chasing borrowed dreams. Tomorrow, Ryan would return to the garage to learn the value of honest work. May would return to the dealership, watching others sell the luxury she once thought she deserved. And somewhere north, Alan would continue building, his hands creating something lasting while she lived with the consequences of destroying what he had built. 6 months of manual labor had transformed Ryan in ways no private school education could have. His soft hands now bore the marks of honest work. At sunrise, he pulled his used Honda Civic into the construction site where his father's latest project was taking shape. Clutching the new toolbox purchased with 3 months of garage overtime pay, Ryan watched the crew arrive, each worker nodding to Alan with genuine respect. "Not visiting today," Alan said, noticing Ryan's presence. Ryan lifted the toolbox. "I'm here to work. Got your certifications?" Alan's tone was professional. OSHA requirements. Ryan reached into his back pocket and produced neatly folded papers, a Level 1 construction safety certification earned by studying nights after garage shifts. He swallowed hard as he added, "Mr. Peterson, my boss at the garage, even wrote a reference letter for me." Alan examined the documents while his crew pretended not to watch. "They say you've developed good diagnostic skills, attention to detail, and a strong work ethic." His eyes met Ryan's. Peterson isn't easily impressed. Ryan shifted his weight. "I even started reading engineering textbooks. Community college offers night classes in construction management." A ghost of a smile touched Alan's lips. "I thought you were too good for community college. Wasn't Stanford your dream?" "Stanford was Mom's dream. And Jason's," Ryan replied, his voice hardening at the mention of Jason. "I have different dreams now. I want to build something real, not borrow someone else's success." Alan studied his son, not the entitled teenager who once mocked his lifelong work, but a young man beginning to understand the value of earned wisdom. "Show me your hands," he said. Ryan held them out, calloused, oil-stained, bearing a fresh cut from a stubborn transmission. "These are working hands, learning hands, so different from the manicured ones that once drove that borrowed BMW." "Mom sold the house," Ryan said quietly. "The one you built." He added, "Some developers are tearing it down and putting up cheap condos. Foundations matter." Alan replied, "In buildings and in life, you can't put luxury finishes on shaky ground." "I know that now." Ryan placed his toolbox beside a stack of lumber. "The garage taught me that you can't rush skill or fake experience. Every engine I fix, every problem I solve. It's like you always said, build knowledge from the ground up." Alan picked up a set of blueprints. "We're short on materials, runner. Basic work fetching supplies, learning inventory. $7 an hour less than your garage shop." He paused. "But you'll learn every piece that goes into making something stand. When do I start?" "Now," Ryan replied. Alan handed him a hard hat. "Safety first. Just like I taught you with that treehouse." The memory of summer afternoons spent building a treehouse together filled the air. Ryan reached into his toolbox and pulled out a worn photograph he had found in Mom's storage while packing. "Remember this?" he asked, showing a photo of a young Ryan holding his first hammer beside a half-finished treehouse. "You wore those work boots I bought you for weeks," Alan recalled. "Even when you were little, I insisted you earn your calluses." Ryan smiled and gestured to his own sturdy boots. "I earned these myself." Father and son stood in silence as the photo bridged the gap of the past months. The construction site hummed with purpose, concrete being poured, frames rising, each worker contributing to something larger than themselves. "One condition," Alan finally said. "You keep the garage job on weekends. Finish what you started there. No walking away when things get tough, unlike what Mom and Jason did. Their choices had consequences." Alan tucked the photo into his shirt pocket. "We build differently." The sun climbed higher as Ryan joined the crew, learning each person's role and how individual efforts united for a common purpose. During breaks, Ryan watched Alan interact with his workers. No pretense, no borrowed authority, just earned respect and shared pride in creation. By day's end, Ryan's new toolbox had its first scratches and his safety papers showed creases from the construction site. He had begun to understand that building bridges required honest effort. Alan nodded. "You're earning it now. No shortcuts." Then he reached into his truck and pulled out a thick envelope. The college fund, never touched, waiting to see if Ryan would build something worth investing in. Ryan stared at the envelope, understanding its weight represented more than money. "I won't waste it this time," he said softly. "I know," Alan replied with certainty. "Because this time, you're building your own foundation." As Ryan drove home to Mom's small apartment, his new hard hat on the passenger seat, he realized some bridges couldn't be bought or borrowed. They had to be built, one honest day's work at a time. 1 year later, the small northern town had transformed into Alan's new territory. Taylor Construction's reputation for quality work spread like roots seeking solid ground. The modest house he had purchased, a fixer-upper far below his means, stood half-renovated, improvements secondary to client projects. On a Sunday morning, Alan reviewed project bids at his scared kitchen table when a familiar Honda Civic pulled into his gravel driveway. Ryan emerged, dressed in work clothes despite it being the weekend, clutching an envelope and rolled blueprints. "I thought you'd be at the garage," Alan said as Ryan entered through the unlocked door. "Mr. Peterson promoted me to lead mechanic last month," Ryan announced proudly. "I earned it rather than borrowing success. I even trained my replacement yesterday. I've got something to show you." The envelope contained an acceptance letter from the local university's engineering program. Not Stanford's manicured lawns and legacy admissions, but a school that valued practical experience alongside academic achievement. Full scholarship. Ryan spread out the blueprints on the workbench. "These are my first solo project plans for construction management," he explained. The details show understanding born of hands-on experience, not just textbook theory. "Did Mom see these?" Alan asked, noting the precision in every measurement. "She's different now," Ryan replied, pulling up a chair. "The apartment is small, but she's paying her own way. She even started teaching finance classes at the Adult Education Center. She finally understands what you meant about building versus borrowing." "And Jason?" Alan asked quietly. "Last we heard, he's selling used cars in Phoenix. His ex-wife's lawyer found evidence of other affairs, lost his finance license. Funny how hollow everything he offered looks now," Ryan said bitterly. Alan nodded, recalling how May's designer lifestyle had been built on his labor. Sometimes the most expensive lessons are the ones we never think we need to learn. Ryan reached into his work bag and pulled out a weathered photo album. "Found this while organizing Mom's storage unit. Remember this day." The photograph showed the completed treehouse, with young Ryan and Alan standing proudly before their first joint project. Ryan's bandaged hands and beaming smile spoke of earned achievement. "You insisted on sanding every board yourself," Alan recalled fondly. "You had to earn your calluses." Ryan's laugh was tinged with newfound understanding. "I wish I'd remembered that lesson before everything changed." Alan studied his son, no longer the entitled teenager seduced by borrowed luxury, but a young man who had rebuilt himself from the foundation up. The past year's transformation showed not just in his hardened hands and work boots, but in his outlook. "I've got a new project starting," Alan said, pulling out his own set of blueprints. "A community center expansion." The load calculations look familiar. Ryan examined the drawings. "These are based on my design from engineering class. The town council approved the modifications. Is this my first real project coming to life?" Alan let the offer hang. "I've got vacation time saved at the garage. I've been waiting for the right project." Their discussion of construction details was interrupted by a text from May. Ryan caught the brief hesitation before Alan handed him the phone. The message read, "Attached is a photo of your father's original toolbox, the one he used to teach you. It belongs with you both now. I finally understand what it represents." Ryan zoomed in on the worn leather and steel, recalling early lessons. "Mom isn't the same person who chose Jason's borrowed glamour over your built stability," he murmured. "People change," Alan said simply. "The question is, are they building something better from the wreckage?" The morning sun streamed through windows that Alan had installed himself, illuminating father and son surrounded by blueprints and possibilities. Outside, Alan's truck waited, loaded with materials for honest labor. "Some things, Alan," he said, reaching for his ever-present hammer, "you have to build yourself. And some things are worth rebuilding together." They bent over the community center plans, calculating measurements, checking angles. The morning passed in comfortable focus. No borrowed prestige, no shortcuts, just the quiet satisfaction of creating something real. As shadows lengthened, Ryan gathered his blueprints. "Mom asked about you," he said quickly. "She hopes you found what you were always trying to build." Alan glanced around his modest home at the half-finished renovations, a reflection of his new life. "I never lost sight of what mattered. I just had to clear away unstable additions." Ryan's Honda's engine turned over as he prepared to leave. Through the windshield, he watched his father return to the porch, not the man who had funded a privileged lifestyle in silence, but the builder who taught him that lasting things come from honest labor. The sunset painted the northern sky as father and son parted ways, each returning to the foundations they had chosen to build upon. Their shared future would rise, beam by beam, supported by understanding earned through sweat and time. Epilogue. 5 years later, the autumn sun cast long shadows across Taylor Construction's newly expanded headquarters. Where once stood a modest side office, now rose a 3-story testament to earned success. Alan surveyed the property from his simple office, walls adorned not with certificates of prestige, but with framed blueprints, each marking a milestone in rebuilding his life. A sleek Tesla pulled into the visitors' parking, drawing his attention. May stepped out, her designer clothes replaced by practical business wear. Her once-perfect manicure was now serviceable and worn. 5 years had etched lines around her eyes that no expensive cream could hide. She wasn't there to admire the bridges that had long been designated unsalvageable. Instead, she attended Ryan's project presentation. Their son, now head of Taylor Construction's engineering division, had risen through merit rather than manipulation. The conference room filled with investors and town council members as May slipped into a back seat, watching Ryan command the room with quiet confidence. His presentation detailed the company's latest development: affordable housing built with innovative, sustainable materials. No flash, no borrowed prestige, just solid plans built on proven foundations. Ryan explained, gesturing to projected figures, "This means building for generations, not just chasing media profit." His eyes briefly met his mother's. "We learned the cost of choosing appearance over substance." In the front row, Ryan's wife Sarah beamed. They had met at the garage where he started rebuilding his life. She had been a customer with a stubborn transmission problem. Their courtship had progressed like one of Alan's projects. Carefully, honestly, with a solid foundation. After the presentation, May lingered as Alan congratulated his son. Their relationship had weathered the storm and emerged stronger from being tested. Her own career in financial literacy had ended when the dealership downsized, Jason's mismanagement having finally caught up with the books. Now, at the Adult Education Center where she taught basic financial literacy, her salary was lower, but she found purpose. Occasionally, local business circles brought news of Jason, each update reinforcing Alan's early assessment about men who build things versus men who sell them. The former BMW sales manager now worked at a struggling used car lot in Phoenix, his license to sell securities permanently revoked after investigations revealed a pattern of fraud. His ex-wife had won everything in their second divorce. The borrowed luxury had vanished like morning fog under the harsh sun. "Mom." Ryan's voice interrupted her thoughts. "Sarah and I want to ask you something." May turned to find her son and daughter-in-law, their expressions suggesting important news. Sarah's hand rested gently on her stomach. "We're due in March," Sarah explained with genuine warmth. "We'd like you to be involved, but there are conditions." Ryan continued, "No designer baby boutiques, no exclusive preschool applications. Our child will learn values from the ground up, just like Dad taught me." May nodded slowly, accepting these terms as part of her ongoing penance. "I'd like that," she said softly, "to see a proper foundation being laid from the start." Across the room, Alan discussed technical specifications with his project managers. His company had grown, not through flashy acquisitions or leveraged buyouts, but through proven results and contracts earned with quality work. The modest house he had renovated had become a home, built with care rather than show. He had never remarried. Building something real meant knowing when some structures couldn't be salvaged. As the meeting dispersed, May found herself alone in the conference room. Through the window, she watched Alan and Ryan head to the construction yard, their matching work boots raising dust as they discussed the day's tasks. A framed photo on the wall caught her eye. The old treehouse with young Ryan and Alan standing proud, and beside it a recent photo of Ryan and Sarah on their wedding day, posed at the community center Alan had built when Ryan first sought redemption. That same community center now hosted May's financial literacy classes, where she taught others about the true cost of choosing appearance over substance. Her phone buzzed with a news alert about Jason. Another fraud investigation. Another set of charges. His pattern had not changed. Only the scale of his deceptions had diminished. May's tiny apartment waited across town. Its rent consumed a significant portion of her teaching salary. The complex wasn't in the best neighborhood, but it was honest, much like the life she had rebuilt from the wreckage of her choices. The next generation would grow up understanding the difference between earned wisdom and borrowed prestige. May's grandchild would learn early that foundations matter, that lasting things take time to build, and that some debts cannot be repaid with money. As she walked to her sensible used car, the only one she could now afford, May passed the wall of completed projects in Taylor Construction's lobby. Each photo represented something Alan had built. Each structure stood as a testament to the difference between his path and Jason's. The final photo showed the company's latest project breaking ground. In the image, 3 generations stood together. Alan with his quiet strength, Ryan with his earned wisdom, and Sarah carrying their future. May was absent, a reminder that some absences are earned too. That evening, in her modest apartment, May graded papers for her financial literacy class. Each worksheet represented someone trying to build security from honest foundations. On her desk lay the broken clasp of a designer bracelet Jason had given her, kept not as a treasure, but as a reminder. Local news ran a feature on Taylor Construction's affordable housing project, praised for its commitment to quality over quick profit. The segment included a brief interview with Ryan, whose confident expertise shone as he explained construction principles. May noticed he wore the same sturdy work boots as Alan, functional, not for show. In the background, she glimpsed Sarah touring the site, one hand resting on her growing belly. The next generation already learning to build things right. Her phone then displayed a final text from Jason, sent months ago during his latest downturn. "Remember when we had it all?" May had never responded. Now she understood they had never truly possessed anything real, only borrowed time and fleeting luxury. As night fell over her small apartment, May opened her teaching notes for tomorrow's class on building financial foundations. The irony was not lost on her. True wealth comes not from what you borrow, but from what you build to last. Somewhere across town, Alan and Ryan were likely working late at the office, planning tomorrow's projects with the same attention to detail that had rebuilt their relationship. Sarah probably waited at their modest, well-built home, understanding the value of men who create rather than consume. And in Phoenix, Jason was undoubtedly chasing another scheme, another shortcut, another borrowed dream, never learning the lesson that had cost May everything. Some things have to be built, not bought. Some foundations must be earned, not borrowed. And some choices carve themselves into the bedrock of your life, teaching future generations the true price of trading substance for show. The next morning would find each of them exactly where their choices had led. Alan building, Ryan learning, Sarah growing, Jason scheming, and May teaching others to avoid her mistakes. Each stood on the foundations they had chosen or failed to build. Some debts accrue interest measured not in dollars, but in wisdom. And some lessons, once learned, stand as permanently as Alan's structures, monuments to the difference between building a life and borrowing one.